To understand the Indian economy today, it's vital to look back at its journey since independence in 1947. Dr. Mehra, could you outline the major phases of India's economic development?
Certainly. Initially, India adopted a planned economy reminiscent of the Soviet Union, focusing on heavy industries and self-sufficiency. The License Raj era restricted private enterprise until the 1991 economic liberalization, which marked a turning point.
That shift in 1991 is often described as transformative. Can you explain the main reforms and their immediate impact on India's growth trajectory?
The reforms included dismantling licensing requirements, reducing import tariffs, and encouraging foreign investment. GDP growth accelerated from around 3%, the so-called Hindu rate of growth, to over 6% in the following decade, drawing parallels with East Asian economies.
It's interesting, but did these reforms benefit all sectors equally, or were there disparities that emerged?
Great question. While urban and service sectors flourished, rural areas lagged. For example, the software industry became globally competitive, yet agriculture's share in GDP steadily declined, highlighting persistent structural imbalances.
Moving forward, one often hears about India's demographic dividend. How does the country's young population influence its economic prospects, Dr. Mehra?
India has a median age of just 28, compared to 38 in China and over 40 in Europe. This large working age population could boost productivity and consumption, much like it did in Japan during the 1960s.
That's promising, but are there risks if the economy doesn't generate enough jobs for this burgeoning workforce?
Absolutely. If job creation lags, the dividend can turn into a demographic liability, fueling unemployment and social unrest. A 2023 study by CMIE noted that India's labor participation rate is only around 40%, lower than the global average.
So, what sectors offer the most potential for absorbing this labor force?
Manufacturing and services, particularly IT and retail, have significant potential. However, without substantial investment in skill development, even these sectors may struggle to keep pace with the growing workforce.
While India's economy has grown rapidly, income inequality remains a pressing concern. Could you break down the main drivers of this divide?
Certainly, urban areas, especially metros like Bengaluru and Mumbai, have seen income and opportunity soar, largely due to technology and finance. In contrast, rural regions depend heavily on agriculture, which has lower productivity and limited value addition.
Are there any notable government initiatives aimed at bridging this rural-urban gap?
Programs like MGNREGA provide rural employment guarantees, while schemes such as Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana aim to improve rural infrastructure. Yet, World Bank data indicates that 44% of rural households still lack reliable access to electricity and sanitation.
That's a significant challenge. How does education factor into this equation?
Education is crucial. Literacy rates have improved, but quality and access remain uneven. Only about 18% of rural youth enroll in higher education, compared to nearly 40% in urban areas, perpetuating the cycle of disparity.
Let's turn to globalization. How has India's integration into the global economy shaped its development in the last 3 decades?
Since the 1990s, India's exports have diversified from textiles to include pharmaceuticals, IT services, and automobiles. For instance, Indian IT services now account for over 150 billion in annual exports, connecting India to clients worldwide.
But with rising protectionism globally, does India face risks to its export-led growth model?
Indeed, as countries revisit trade agreements and supply chains, India must adapt. The Atmanirbhar Bharat Self-Reliant India initiative aims to boost domestic manufacturing, but balancing openness with self-reliance is a delicate act.
How does India compare to other emerging economies like China or Brazil in this regard?
India's growth has been more service-driven, while China focused on manufacturing. According to IMF projections, India's economy could become the world's third largest by 2030, but sustained reforms and global engagement will be key to realizing that potential.